Well, it's all very mystifying. You recall that 48 hours ago, you and I were discussing this very same issue, and then it seemed imminent. It seemed imminent yesterday. It still seems imminent. That's at least to judge by what was said by the deputy Iranian foreign minister, about the agreement being there in principle. The essential problem appears to be a basic disagreement over the parties involved in the negotiation. The president of the United States, Trump, saying this is essentially a bilateral deal between enemies that could lead to further deals unwinding this war. That's what his administration says. The Iranians say the Americans aren't even involved, that this is a bilateral deal between Iran and Oman. That's Iran's neighbor just across the water. So when you have those basic elements in disagreement, it's really hard to see how a satisfactory final deal can be achieved. I think, though, the moment there is a free flow of traffic, albeit controlled by those two countries, potentially giving the Iranians a degree of control they never had before the war, and even service charges, what they're calling service charges, but would effectively come down to some kind of toll, a tribute, money going into the Iranian coffers. The Americans could hold that out as a resumption of free traffic. Potentially that would be enough for President Trump to say that the Hormuz has reopened, and for the Americans to review their own position in the Gulf and their position in this war.
So do we believe that the U.S. at some point may become a party to this deal? Because, again, it just feels like nothing can happen unless it's Iran and the U.S. agreeing here. I mean, Oman can play a part in facilitating negotiations, but at the end of the day, it feels like it's got to be Iran and the U.S. agreeing to something.
Yeah, the principal players.
Yeah.
One imagines when we had the previous MOU, previous ceasefires, declarations Hormuz would be reopened, there was actually a fairly slow trickle of shipping in there. The shipping industry is very, very risk averse. It's heavily insurance driven. And even at the time, there were the reports of U.S. warships escorting ships and the like, civilian vessels, cargo vessels, making their way across that waterway. I would also imagine that a deal freeing up the Hormuz would require a satisfactory demining of Hormuz. That would potentially require the involvement of European, perhaps even American ships in the future. So willy-nilly on the ground, or if you like, on the water, there would be a U.S. participation, I imagine. However, it apparently is very important for the Iranians. They were, after all, the side that was attacked by Israel and the United States on February 28th. They are the side that is expressing grievance here. They've certainly had a position of defiance, and I think their position is they cannot acknowledge any kind of should we say, beneficent arrangement with the United States when they're still officially on a war footing. So it benefits them domestically, it benefits them in terms of their regional standing to tell everyone that the US is not their interlocutor. So the question is whether Oman is a third party or whether it's a mediator or whether, as far as the Iranians are concerned, it really is a bilateral player. But obviously the US Navy is unignorable there, and it will have a say on the water, if not on paper.
Now, we'll recall that over the weekend, President Trump called off a new round of attacks on Iran, and that has helped oil prices come down. And he wanted to give diplomacy a chance. What is the latest on talks between Iran and the U.S.?
Right now, they appear focused on this very, very limited issue. I would cite the U.S. Secretary of State, Rubio, saying that he hopes once this is resolved, it could lead to wider discussions of other issues that were the nub of this war by the United States and Israel against Iran, namely, chiefmost among them, Iran's nuclear program, which the allies want to see stripped down entirely as part of the resolution of this war. Again, that is the account being given by the United States. To hear the Iranians tell it, that's simply it's a no-go area. They're not going to discuss what remains of their nuclear program. It's very hard to see what leverage the allies would have other than resume military force in order to get that issue addressed anew.